Greetings, everybody. This is Roger Thunder, the Desert Shaman. Well, today I thought I'd kind of give you an update as to what's happening on the war in Ukraine because that basically is the biggest event that's happening on the planet right now. I think I'm gonna entitle this one General Armageddon is the name of this video because that's the guy that is in charge now with the Russian military after the attack on the Crimean bridge. So I'm just going to jump right into some videos here on war footage on what's happening now in Ukraine because you're not going to see this stuff on the mainstream media anywhere. You have to kind of search for it. Have to search for the intel. You have to search day to day to see what's going on over there because they keep us in the dark here in the U.S. and basically they want their narrative. Well, I'm out here to give a different narrative other than Russia's losing the war and, Russia's on the run and, Ukraine is demolishing Russia. Well, here's the real truth. So I'm going to start off with a little video here by Scott Ritter, who, if you read right underneath the video or on the video, you see who this gentleman is. And so we'll start off with him to give you kind of a perspective of what's going on and what this General Armageddon is doing. So let me start that video.
I mean, before the terror attack against the Kerch Bridge, we were looking at a slow motion transition on the part of Russia. A decision had been made to partially mobilize to bring 300,000 reservists onto active duty. A decision had been made to, and it's a dramatic decision, to incorporate four formerly Ukrainian territories into the Russian Federation. And while this was, I think, groundbreaking in terms of the geopolitics of it, it hadn't fundamentally changed the situation on the ground. The Russian military was still overextended. The Ukrainians were still enjoying the momentum of their September offensive. And then the attack on the bridge came. And we've just seen a dramatic transition. The Russians have basically taken the brakes off. They've appointed a new commander, ominously nicknamed General Armageddon. And he has been given, he's the single commander of the entire theater. He makes all the decisions. He can use the weapons, anything short of nuclear weapons can be used to achieve the objectives. And within 24 hours of taking command, as you mentioned, the skies, if not blackened by cruise missiles, there was a definite presence felt by the Ukrainians as scores of critical strategic infrastructure targets were hit, not just one day, but the next day and the next day. I don't know how long this campaign will go. If it truly is the initiation of a strategic air campaign designed to destroy the critical infrastructure of Ukraine in preparation for a large-scale Russian ground offensive, mirroring, by the way, the approach taken by the United States in Desert Storm back in 1991, then the Ukrainians are in for a very, very long and difficult period of their history, one which will see the integrity of their nation degraded. It's tragic for the Ukrainian people. It's tragic for Europe. It's tragic for everybody. But it's something that they brought upon themselves together with NATO, the United States, the European Union. And we see it. We see the impact of this. We see the panic in the voice of Zelensky as he calls for preemptive nuclear strikes, as he begs for assistance, pleads for more money, more weapons. We see NATO assembling an emergency meeting in Brussels where they're talking about sending hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars more of air defense systems to create from whole cloth an integrated air defense network capable of defending Ukraine from the Russian onslaught. I think things look good on paper when they're planned in a vacuum. You can sit there in Brussels and say, I'm going to put a radar here, put some missiles here, and we'll move it all around and shuffle. It's another thing to try to do that in the midst of an ongoing air campaign where Russia is going to be hunting you down and seeking to destroy you before these systems are put in.
Okay, so there's that video there. Gonna have to bear with me here because when I switch back and forth between things, I have to turn the mic off and turn this on and do this and do that. So it's all kind of new to me, and I'm trying to juggle all the bells and whistles here so that you can get some idea what's going on. But just off what Scott said there, so we got this new general in charge, and this guy is a no-nonsense guy. And a lot of people have been waiting for this, like I said in my last video. And the strikes seem to be ongoing day after day after day. And it's not looking good for Ukraine, as opposed to the narrative that has been put out again by the mainstream media here that somehow Russia's losing the war or something. That's ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. And another thing that I noted that he said was the amount of money that's going to Ukraine. At last count, from another source, I learned that we're up to like $80 billion that we've sent to Ukraine from the United States. This idiot Biden here in the Congress keeps okaying more and more money, more and more money. $80 billion. Think about that for a minute. As you hear that giant sucking sound out of your wallet and the increase of food, clothing, anything you want to buy, gas, all of that stuff. Think about the silliness and the absolute absurdity of what America's doing right now. Sending money to a country that most people can't spell or even find on a map. So okay, so we got that little narrative going. Now let's see some actual footage. Now what's happening here is not only are they shooting, Russia is launching cruise missiles into the infrastructure of Ukraine and the energy grid and things of that nature. People are going to feel the pain there now. I'll actually show you some. Now see, they have missiles, and then they have these things called kamikaze drones, which were made in Iran, which are being shipped in huge quantities to Russia, and Russia is also developing more of their own missiles that are just devastating. And they try, these idiots try to shoot these things down as they come in. The Ukrainian cops and the military over there are actually firing. It's pathetic, really. They're firing AK-47s and stuff like that at these drones trying to stop them. You just can't stop them. So I'm going to show you some footage of that right now.
Блядь, нет, он падает! Блядь, ложись! Ебать! Охуеть! Блядь, страшно нахуй. 906.
Давай, доставай.
906.
Зараз якщо буде йти хуя. От, прямо. Я на роботу.
Якраз
Я на роботу.
якраз
Yeah, so there you have some of that footage again of the little kamikaze drones. They sound like giant wasps coming in. You see, this is what's happening in the western part of Ukraine now, and we're all the command and control centers and again the electricity grid. You're not going to see this stuff. This is actual combat footage. I have so many resources that I can go to for intel, seemingly endless, but I thought I would just, post a few things that I see every day. Isn't war wonderful? It's just a great thing, isn't it? And who pushed Russia into doing this? Well, again, as I said in my last videos, many previous videos, it's all planned out by NATO, and it's all planned out by the United States, and started way back in 2014 when they had a coup in Kiev and basically imported nationalist Nazis into the situation. And then you got 8 years of the bombing of Donbass, because Donbass and Luhansk and that whole eastern portion of Ukraine were mostly Russian-speaking people, and they wanted to have no part of this new nationalist movement, which was a brutal movement. So what did that movement do? Well, it moved in on Donbass and Luhansk and Donetsk and all these different places in eastern Ukraine, just to give you a synopsis of what happened. And the people there have been being killed in the thousands. Okay, thousands and thousands of people have been set upon by this nationalist group from the western part of Ukraine, influenced by the West and created by the West, to cause a conflict within the Ukrainian state. So Russia had no choice at all but to go in and try to protect the Slavic people in the eastern part of Ukraine and try to protect the Russians there, who this nationalist group hated. And the head of this nationalist group is Zelensky, who is the quote-unquote president there in Ukraine. But he's just a puppet being run by, I should say, these idiots in the think tanks in the West and in America, and basically using Ukraine as a proxy for them to go to war with Russia. Well, what is the bottom line? Why do they want to go to war with Russia? Why do they want to attack Russia? Well, because it's the same old hegemonic thing of America thinking that they can go into sovereign countries if they don't like what they're doing, or if they feel that they're any kind of threat on a financial or any kind of level, going in there and trying to do a regime change, just like they did in Syria and you know, with Gaddafi and in Libya. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. The deep state going in and trying to replace people that they don't like all over the world. Okay. Problem is that 2/3 of the world. This is happening in about a third. You know, NATO is comprised, and America is actually a minority of the population of the earth. The other parts of the earth in Eurasia don't like this shit at all. They don't like being bullied at all. They don't like, and so it's coming to an end, both on a financial level and on a level of, you know, challenging the military or the status quo of the military that's sent in on, you know, futile efforts, just like they did in Afghanistan, to control a situation. Meanwhile, billions of our tax dollars, billions of dollars, 80 billion, are going over to these places. Well, they picked on the wrong person with Russia, because Russia warned them, we do not want NATO on our doorstep. We do not want nuclear missiles right next door to us. And again, I've said this in the past, it's like putting missiles. It would be like if Russia came over and put missiles in Mexico or Canada right on our border, which would not be allowed at all according to the Monroe Doctrine that the U.S. goes by. The Monroe Doctrine, which means that any country that is, let's say, getting too close to America with any kind of weapons, is, the Monroe Doctrine states that that's not going to happen, and that's what America goes by. They don't allow anybody near their borders with any kind of weapons. Yet, for them, the double standard, the hypocrisy, the double standard is, oh yeah, but we can do that to Russia. We can do that to other countries that we don't like. We can put missiles on their borders. We can put troops in there to threaten their borders. Well, basically, Putin saw that coming a long time ago. Long time ago. And he issued a warning. He said, this isn't kosher. This isn't going to happen. Don't think for a minute that's going to happen, because as soon as it does, we'll stop it. And so that was the whole reason that Russia went into Ukraine, not to just go take over a country, and they went in with a special military operation, not a war. But now that the West has realized that they were kind of going to lose that situation, they escalated it up to terrorism, outright terrorism, destroying pipelines, Russia's infrastructure, the Nord Stream 1 and 2, and attacking things like the Crimean Bridge, which is a beautiful structure that costs billions of dollars, to join Crimea with the mainland. Crimea, incidentally, is the Black Sea port of Russia, so that is something that can't be fucked with at all. But yet you have these psychos in America and in the West that keep trying to do this stuff over and over and over again. And so they also delivered a bunch of sanctions against Russia, which all backfired. All these sanctions coming in from the EU and the West and America, sanctioning this and sanctioning that, and stealing luxury yachts and stuff from supposed oligarchs that lived in Russia and pulling out McDonald's and doing all this stuff didn't affect Russia one iota. It all backfired because one of the sanctions, in case you're not up on this stuff, was to sanction their export of gas, okay, to make it so that no countries in the EU, the French, the German, the Baltic states, any of these countries could buy gas from Russia anymore. Well, what is that doing? It's completely collapsing all these countries. All of these countries are going to freeze to death. The people are this winter. And at the very least, they won't be able to pay any of their gas and electric bills because those have gone up exponentially 10 times. Can you imagine if your electricity bill went up 10 times? They can't afford to pay it. And don't think that it couldn't happen here. Don't think that it couldn't happen in America. Don't think that it isn't happening already. Like I say, with the food prices and the gas prices and all of the stuff that's going to start, the shit's going to start hitting the fan, already is hitting the fan here in America. So their little agenda of destroying America through first the health issue that occurred here, and the follow-up of the lockdowns and all this stuff. And then following that up with the Ukraine war, you can see exactly what the fuck's happening here. This is all a planned operation. This is all from a Rand Corporation think tank, okay, that in other think tanks, that in other dark cabals behind the scene, like the Rothschilds and the Soroses and the Bill Gates and all these people that are part of the World Economic Forum that think that they're going to make it so that the populations are decreased, that there is, you're gonna eat rice and beans and like it, that type of thing. Although I happen to like rice and beans myself, I could live on that forever. But you get my drift here. They want people to be in like a third world country. They want people to live in poverty. They want people to slave even more. Now, the psychotic mentality of these people is what has been slowly escalating and escalating and escalating. Part of that whole situation is taking away your rights. And that all started back in 9/11 with the Patriot Act. And the Office of Homeland Security, we want to see your papers. Truth be known, all these, what's really astonishing is that America looks more like Nazi Germany than it does America anymore. And these countries that once fought the Germans in World War II are now turning into the exact thing that they fought. You couldn't make this shit up. History is flipping. It's doing a weird thing. Okay, and there's a lot of stuff going on here that I'll try to remember and talk about in future videos. But another thing is the Starlink system that Elon Musk put up. And I've talked about all of this stuff in the past. I've talked about how he shot up 4,000 satellites into outer space on the assumption that it was for, or the explanation that it was for communication purposes, which was really ridiculous because you only need 3 or 4 satellites to cover the whole world. So now you're saying that these satellites are being used, the Starlink system, is being used, has been being used by the Ukrainians and by NATO to spot Russian troop movements and to spy on Russian activity, and basically used for warfare purposes. Not to mention that this shit is all 5G, which is extremely hazardous to mankind. So you got all kinds of shit going on right now. You got the satellites in outer space. You got the war on the ground. You got the financial situation that is worsening day by day. This winter is going to be hell. And then you have the supposed upcoming midterm elections, which are a joke, because that's not going to, I mean, even if all the Republicans take over the Congress and all that stuff, you think stuff's going to change? Look back when they were in power before. It was just the same thing. So politics is a ruse. It's a lie. It's a sham. It's to give people hope, okay, that, well, if we get out there and we get this person in and call your congressman and do this and do that, well, things are somehow just going to miraculously change. Wrong. When has politics ever changed anything? Politics has never changed anything. For the better. It's changed it for the worse. So this is just like giving you a big picture here. I mean, I've made so many videos connecting the dots between everything that's happening, as far as getting people to expect, let's say, for instance, getting people in a apocalyptic mindset. Okay. That's basically, with all the talk of nuclear war and everything that's going on right now, it's, apocalypse now, I mean, that's basically what it is. Well, where does that thinking come from? Where does the apocalyptic thinking come from? Where does the apocalyptic indoctrination come from? Well, it comes from religion. It comes from the three big religions. You got Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, all from the same father, Abraham, by the way. And if you dig into this stuff, you can see that it was a purposeful plan, okay, by the, let's say, dark ones, the evil ones. Started a long time ago. And to keep propagating this end time apocalyptic thing and getting people to believe in that type of thing, okay, is part of the plan, and that plan is working out now as they're projecting that consciousness through wars and pandemics, false pandemics, and all of this type of thing. Same stuff that you read about in the book of Revelation in the Bible, which incidentally, the book of Revelation isn't even in the Eastern Orthodox Christianity or their Bible, which is actually what is practiced in Russia. Huh? Light bulb, bingo. In other words, they don't believe in all that apocalyptic bullshit that's been put into our minds, put into the majority of mankind's minds, with this collective consciousness actually helping to bring to fruition or manifest exactly what they've been brainwashed with. So I know I've touched on this stuff before, but I always like to keep continually connecting the dots so that you can see what's going on here with this world. The horrendous activity and how it's ramping up, ramping up, ramping up. I mean, I've never heard so much talk about nuclear warfare in my life. I mean, even back in the days with the Cuban Missile Crisis, nothing like this. And as far as nuclear weapons go, the ones that were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki can't even, they pale in comparison to what's out there now. So basically what's happening right now is anything could happen. I mean, as the war gets to the point of where NATO and America sees that they're losing their ass and they're not going to be able to bring Russia down, that just isn't going to happen by all accounts, by all of the... I watch hour after hour of programs of people that are not talking heads, but they're strategic analysts, they're military analysts, they're financial analysts. And they get together in roundtables. One of these shows is called Crosstalk on RT, which is a very good show. And then you have The Gaggle, which is another place where you can get information. I mean, truth. You can talk to people with clear heads, analysts, ex-CIA, strategic analysts, whistleblowers. The list goes on and on and on about the people that are talking about what kind of situation we're in right now. And the words that come up are dangerous, psychotic, crazy, insane, when referring to the people that are controlled by the West. Now, the people that are on the other part of the planet, which are actually in the majority, we're talking Russia, China, the BRICS nations, Venezuela, Brazil, you know, all these other, Africa, all these other countries are not down with what's going on in Ukraine. They're not down with the hegemonic, vampire-like mentality of the exceptional West. I mean, you read some of the comments in some of these, like some of these videos that I posted earlier. You read some of the comments on there, and there is nothing good to be said about Americans. Basically, Americans, by the majority, a lot of Eurasian and East Asian and people in Russia and people in, even people in the EU. I mean, they don't like America. They don't like America. And America is on the ropes, basically, right now. So anytime you're on the ropes and you've got an agenda and it's falling apart, just like the pandemic and the Ukraine war, it's all falling apart on them. It's all falling apart. What do you do when you got a plan and you're a country and, you know, everything that you try to do, you know, falls apart before your very eyes, is exposed? What do you do when you get backed into a corner? Well, you kind of get desperate, don't you? And that's the thing that's dangerous, is the desperation right now. It's the desperation. So anyway, I'll kind of leave it there today and put this out there, and hopefully, you know, I'll be back again soon with some more stuff for you. Adios.